Hey guys, so this is the new EMAX Babyhawk-R, and I just got this today and flew about 10 packs through it. Just wanted to share some of my initial impressions of this new model. Isn't going to be out until probably about Christmas or maybe later. You can pick this up, pre-order it at the EMAX USA website. I think you can also pre-order it at Bang and a few other places as well. But yeah, my initial impressions are pretty good. I think this thing is very durable. They made a 3mm bottom plate here that's actually got separated arms, and you can see here the arms can be upgraded later to I believe 2.5-inch and 3-inch arms are coming out later. I'm pretty sure 3-inch arms are coming out now, but I'm not 100% sure on the 2.5-inch arms. But 3mm thick carbon. Crashed it. I crashed this quite a bit actually at the park because it's a little bit dirty, and even scuffed up some of the carbon here on the concrete. And it's held up very well. I know that some people were worried about this plastic canopy. I can tell you that some sort of injection molded plastic here. It's very hard. I crashed it on the sidewalk. There's not even a mark on it. I think the carbon took more of a hit than the plastic canopy, so wouldn't be too worried about that. But the frame itself is, I think, going to be very durable. If you're worried about crashing this and damaging it, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I crashed it into a tree, into the sidewalk, and so far so good. Although, you know, it's only 10 batteries, so you never know. Obviously, if you hit a tree at a faster speed, at say 50 miles an hour, you might experience a different amount of damage. But first, let me just go over real quick what you get here. This isn't going to be a full review, so I'm just going to go over this really quick. You get a Foxeer Aero Micro CCD camera. They, of course, have the EMAX 1106 6000 kV motors, and also the new Avon 2-inch micro props. These props were designed for this motor, so they actually optimize the performance for this motor. Unlike in my original test where I flew it on the Diatone with the 1104 6000 kV motor, I think that the power on this motor is better on this prop, especially below 50% throttle. That's the thing I noticed that was different about this prop. So they did build this out with the EMAX, the F3 Mini Magnum. That's a little stack here with the Omnibus F3 flight controller and a 12 amp 4-in-1 BLHeli SESC. They have a third stack up there, which you're not really sure if you can see that there. It's some sort of video transmitter. It is power switchable, I believe 25 and 200 milliwatts. There's a small button here where you can change your bands and channels. There was no manual that was included with the one I got, but they told me that if you hold the button for 5 seconds, it'll access your bands and channels, so you can change that. And if you hold the button for 10 seconds, you can switch your power from 25 and 200 milliwatts. If there's no dot there, it's 25 milliwatts. If there's a dot there, it's 200 milliwatts. There's this one includes a FreeSky receiver. I think this is a D8 receiver. I don't know what brand this receiver is. I've never seen it before. It's not a FreeSky receiver like an XM or XM Plus. It's got a single little antenna here that sticks out. It's a pretty short one, and this is as far as it goes out. Right here, this is the length of it. It's fine. I didn't get any fail-safes. The bind button was a little bit challenging to get access to. You have to press and hold that bind button while you power it on, so that can be a little tricky. And then the button here on the side for your video transmitter is actually a lot easier to get to. But I flew it totally stock, the way that they sent it. It comes with Maiden Flight 322 with dynamic filters on, and both notch filters turned off, and the D-term filter I think is still turned on. And flew pretty well. Stock PIDs, I didn't tune it at all. It came with some different rates and stuff. I kind of changed that to the rates I liked. And the way that they had the tune on this is a little bit different. It felt a little loose, but it's something that it didn't really give me any trouble. I could fly no problem. It's just that it's something that, in terms of a feel, I don't particularly like. I like a more crisp, more locked-in feel. This felt a little bit loose, a little bit delayed in the responsiveness. I don't think it has anything to do with the electronics of the Babyhawk-R here. I think it has everything to do with the way that it was tuned. Just tuned differently than the way I'm used to, but you'll see that it flies totally fine. I was able to pick it up very quickly, and it will do all the maneuvers I particularly like. it was not an issue at all. So in terms of out-of-the-box flight characteristics, I think that it's pretty good for out-of-the-box. I think that if you are a PID tuning, like a newbie or afraid of PID tuning, don't know how to tune or don't want to tune, this is a good model to pick up because I didn't touch the tune at all and I was able to fly very predictably. So if you're worried about tuning, I wouldn't be worried about this one. This will fly very well out of the box. Now in terms of the overall power of the model, I think that this has a lot of power, especially with these 1106 motors. But I think the downside to the power is that you lose flight time. So they sent a 453S tattoo battery, and I could only get about 2 minutes flying that battery. It's just not a big enough battery, and this is a fairly heavy model. For a 2-inch, it comes in at about 89 grams. And the Diatone R90 is about 74 grams, so it's about 15 grams heavier. Obviously, the extra weight is the motors. The motors are much heavier, the 4 motors here. So that's where the weight comes from, and so they've tuned these motors and these props together so you get very good throttle response and power on the low end and also on the high end. So yeah, if you're looking at this model, I think you should probably stick to these props. I'd probably try some other props later, but I think that since they've designed this combination and tuned for this prop, you probably want to stick with this prop for this model. Now, a couple other things I think they should improve on here is they should probably do something about this capacitor here. It just kind of sticks out, and it could easily get knocked off or damaged in some way because it just kind of sticks out, protrudes from the side of the body there. They ought to tuck this away underneath this canopy somehow. If they could just if they just change the orientation of the capacitor and resolder it so that it is parallel to the main body here, it'll be a little bit more protected. That's a pretty easy change. And then they should increase the gauge of the wire on the XT30 here. This is, I think this is 22 gauge wire. Pretty thin, and I prefer to see something like 18 or 16 gauge wire here, at least to match the battery. The tattoo battery came, I think, with a 16 gauge wire, so something to change there. Okay, so that's enough of me rambling on about this. I'm going to go ahead and show you the flight footage, and I'll talk about a little bit about the flight characteristics while I roll the flight footage. So this is the actual Maiden Flight, and I am, as I mentioned before, just trying to get used to this tune. It is a little different than what I'm used to, but it didn't really take me very long to pick it up. It almost feels like maybe the I gain needs to go up a little bit, and maybe the P gain, because these are basically stock Betaflight PIDs for 322. But I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I can't really complain too much about it. I think that pretty much anyone that picks this up and doesn't want to tune it shouldn't have any problem flying it. Obviously, you can see there's no vibrations, no oscillations, no jitters. It's just more of a feel and a preference for how I like the craft to respond. So it has nothing really to do with how well this would fly. Obviously, with a different tune, it would fly pretty much the way I want it to. So I will probably tune it to the numbers that I like, and then fly it again for a future video. But yeah, you can see here on the Maiden Flight, I had no problems doing all the things I like to do. It's just that it was a little, the feeling was just a little strange, that's all. But otherwise, I thought it flew really well. Now, I am flying this on the 450 3S Tattoo battery that they sent along with this. That battery is not going to be included in the retail version, and you have to get your own battery. So I recommend getting a very high C-rated, probably more than a 450. I think I ended up getting about 2.5 minutes on a brand new battery here, but right at the very end of the flight, you'll see that I think the battery voltage was around 10 volts or something like that. And then all of a sudden it just fell off a cliff, and I ended up having to rush back to where I was. Just basically just crashed in the grass because it just didn't have enough voltage to fly anymore. So that's something you have to be aware of. This does kill your batteries, even if you have really good batteries. And at the very end of the battery, you're going to have to be aware of where you're at, because your voltage will probably just drop off the cliff, and then you'll end up crashing and have to go retrieve your quad. So just be aware of that. Okay, here I'm at the end of the battery, and I'm at about 10 volts, and about 2.5 minutes. And then I think about right here, I'm hearing the beeper go off, and I'm like, oh, I better go back. And it's like 8.5 volts, 8, 7, and then I just crash. So, yeah, that's how the battery goes. Okay, so here's another flight with actually quite a bit bigger battery. I'm flying here with a 550 milliamp hour 3S GNB battery, and I don't really do as much full throttle punch outs and acrobatic maneuvers in this one, a little bit less freestyle, and more just kind of cruising around and feeling the maneuverability of the Baby Hawk. And yeah, I'm doing a little bit of freestyle here, but then I end up, I think I end up crashing at some point here, and then I just kind of cruise around. But I do get quite a bit more battery time on a bigger battery here, and also not hitting full throttle as much as on the first flight. And once again here, the battery voltage falls right off a cliff, and 9.5 volts, and I'll end up crashing here. Well, I try and land, and I'm 7 volts, and yeah, I crash. Okay, so here's another flight. I'm back on the 453S, and this is how I more typically fly. A lot of full throttle punch shots, a lot of freestyle flying, and you'll see here at the end of the flight, the battery voltage again drops off a cliff, and I get about 2 minutes of flight time, flying pretty aggressively, which is kind of the way I normally fly. So just something to keep in mind if you're going to be flying a 453S, and you're going to be flying fairly aggressively like here, you're probably not going to expect much more flight time than about 2 minutes, maybe a little bit over 2 minutes. And if you go to a larger battery like a 550, a pretty good one at that, I think you can probably expect closer to 3 minutes on a 550. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so I know that a lot of people are going to be asking, which one should you get? Should you get this one or should you get the diatone? I will probably have another video a little bit more in depth later as to the answer to that question. I think it's really going to depend on your flying style and kind of the things you're looking for. But I will try and cover those things in a future video. Obviously things like durability, flight time, performance, all those kinds of things. I think that, flying only about 10 batteries through the Babyhawk-R is not enough for me to really determine right now which is better. But I can't complain about the Babyhawk-R. It's pretty good. Is it better than the Diatone R90? It's going to be close, so we'll have another video in the future. So if you have any questions about that, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and address that in the future video that's going to come up on these two. I guess my two favorite micros at the moment. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video. Let me know if you have any more questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.